The story begins with our protagonist quietly enjoying reading a novel, only to be thrown off by an unexpected twist. This sudden shift completely ruins his mood. His name is Jin Seo-won, a 23-year-old who was discharged from the military just 6 months ago. He's currently preparing to return to college, slowly adjusting back to civilian life. At that moment, his phone starts buzzing. It's a call from someone asking if he's up for a game. Without much enthusiasm, he picks up, clearly not in the best mood. It's obvious he thinks the caller needs more friends to bother. Like many others his age, Seo-won once had a well-thought-out life plan. But since returning from the military, reality has been hitting differently. He realizes he missed out on a lot while he was gone. Fun, trends, even basic freedom. Now, he's just trying to catch up. As he walks through the streets, his thoughts drift to his dwindling savings. With barely enough money left, he wonders if it's time to start looking for a part-time job. Eventually, he walks into a PC cafe. The owner recognizes him and casually asks if he's back to play Royal Ground again. Without hesitation, he nods and buys 10 hours of game time. After getting discharged, he dove headfirst into a game called Royal Ground, a fast-paced battle royale where 100 players drop into a massive war zone, scavenge for weapons, and fight until only one remains. He wasn't just playing casually either. Within just 3 months, he grinded his way into the top 10, even raking in some cash from local cafe tournaments. This guy was cracked. We see him flexing his skills as he dominates the lobby. But as always, there's that one friend being loud and annoying, getting on his nerves and dragging attention their way. He tells him to quiet down. They need to move into the safe zone fast. They're on the hunt for a player wearing a skull mask, who's the only other guy left. Entering a building, they find untouched loot scattered across the floor. It looks like no one's been here. Jackpot. But just as he mutters that, something feels off. Behind them, the skull mask appears, lurking silently in the shadows. In an instant, the masked player ambushes them, taking out his teammate effortlessly. But as the skull tries to retreat, Seo-won locks on. One clean shot, straight to the head. Victory. Stretching his arms, he doesn't even look surprised. For him, it's just another win. He casually tells his friend to queue up again. But when he checks the time, it's already 10:30. He thinks, maybe he should start studying for tomorrow. Maybe? But just as he's about to load into the next match, a message pops up on his phone. It's from his mom. She's asking how his studies are going, and sends him extra money for his academy fees. Every time she texts, it hits him right in the chest. He's been living like this for months, stuck in this loop of games and guilt. Later, lying in bed, he's aimlessly scrolling through his phone when a news headline catches his eye. Reports of people appearing overseas with strange powers. They're calling themselves players. But when he clicks on the article, it's gone. Deleted like it never existed. Weirded out, he brushes it off and goes to sleep. The next morning, his friend is still pestering him about some clan war. He's thinking about hopping in for one last game, when suddenly, a strange purple light floods the area, wrapping around him completely. And just like that, he vanishes. No trace was left behind, except for his bag. Sometime later, Seo-won wakes up, and everything around him is in complete chaos. Confused and disoriented, he wonders if he's dreaming, especially with all the people in what looks like cosplay, speaking in a language he can't understand. But then, things get even weirder. Suddenly, a voice echoes in his head, coming from a giant robot. It announces that the system is initializing and the language synchronization is complete. Before he knows it, everyone around him starts speaking Korean. Seo-won overhears some guy expressing his relief at being able to understand everyone now. Things take another turn when he spots two people, named Escrow and Chiron, arguing. Escrow accuses Chiron of being responsible for putting everyone in this mess, but Chiron just shrugs it off, saying that they're all destined to kneel before the demon lord. Escrow, clearly fed up, starts charging up his power and vows to end this right here by taking down Chiron first. A bolt of lightning shoots from his hand, but Chiron just takes it head-on, unfazed. It doesn't even leave a scratch. At this point, Seo-won's starting to feel like this is no dream. Everything's way too real. Just as he's processing all of this, the voice in his head returns, announcing the start of a game. The goal? Make it to the top 90 players, with rewards reserved for the top 10 and above. Attacks between players are neutralized in the waiting room, but once the game begins, anything goes. A screen pops up in front of him, showing a map of the game world. He's still struggling to wrap his head around it when the robot explains that the game will last 100 years, but there are daily limits. If a player exits the map, they might face serious consequences. The game continues until only one player remains. If you're eliminated, you return to your original world. If you're not in the top 90, you won't get another shot. Seo-won can't believe it. Could this really be the Loyal Ground game? He looks around, realizing he's surrounded by other players, each of them just as confused and desperate to survive as he is. Even if this is a dream, he's not ready to die just yet. He calls out to a nearby barbarian, who's clearly not happy with Seo-won's attention. The barbarian demands to know why Seo-won is ignoring him. Seo-won just laughs it off. If this is a dream, he's going to enjoy it. With his knowledge of log abilities, he figures he'll be fine. He can easily beat the weaklings around him. The countdown begins. And just like that, day 1 of Cloyd's survival starts. Seo-won quickly decides to avoid the crowded areas where players are flocking. He heads to the outskirts and spots a house in the distance. Seems like a good place to hide for now. He lands and immediately feels nauseous from the motion sickness. He tries to shake it off, determined to make it inside the house. Inside, he thinks he might be alone. If someone else is here, he's in big trouble. He shuts the door behind him, heart pounding, and wonders if the barbarian followed him. As he glances outside, he thinks he hears something, but then, silence. Maybe it's just the wind. Relieved, he starts looking around the house. He trips over something on the floor and picks it up. Turns out, it's a heavy crossbow. It's awkward to hold, but better than nothing. When he decided to test it out, the way to use it naturally flowed into his head. With the arrow loaded, he pulls the trigger. The force of the shot surprises him. This could be useful, but he's going to need to practice. After some more searching, he heads back outside. The map is huge, and he's got plenty of time to explore. He's just hoping he won't run into any enemies, at least not yet. As he continues his search, he stumbles upon a glowing scroll. He realizes it's a healing scroll, an item that heals wounds when ripped. That's a pretty handy item to have, but what he really wants is an item bag to carry everything. No sooner does he think this than he spots a glowing object on a bookshelf. He picks it up, and it's a martial arts book, Chi Palm Martial Arts. Apparently, it lets you project hidden weapons through your fingers. He wonders if clicking yes to learn it will trigger a tutorial, but before he can decide, a purple light suddenly emanates from the book. It dissolves in his hands, leaving him wondering what just happened. Then, his hands start glowing. Seeing this, he doesn't waste any time and picks up a nearby fork. He throws it at a wall, and it hits with a satisfying thud. His new martial arts technique works. Excited, our boy grins. He's not just surviving this game, he's going to dominate. Thinking about it, he realizes that the presence of martial arts books must mean there's a chance magic books are hidden somewhere too. But regardless, he knows one thing for sure. This game and Royal Ground are the same. But since he's already scoured the area and looted everything in sight, it's time to leave. Since the sun's already set, he hurriedly finds a place to hide. That's when he spots a lone house with lights on. Two possibilities cross his mind. Either there's a rare item hidden inside, or someone is already there. Weapon at the ready, he moves closer, knowing he has no idea how many players might be nearby. If someone's inside, they could be a total pro or a complete noob. Either way, he's ready for anything. Hiding behind the wall and peering over at the staircase, he hears nothing. Maybe they're upstairs? Determined, he decides to check the second floor. As he climbs, his eyes fall on something. It's just a lantern. But could it be a trap? He shakes the thought off and pushes forward. Reaching a room on the second floor, he kicks the wooden door open with a loud bang. The room's empty. No one's here. Relieved, he lets out a breath, realizing it's just him putting on a show for no one. But as he searches the room, something catches his eye, a ring of strength. His curiosity piqued, he slips it onto his finger. Instantly, he feels a strange lightness, as if the weight of his heavy crossbow has vanished. Could there be a stat screen in this game? He opens his system interface, but the sight is disappointing. His stats are pathetic. But then again, compared to where he started, it's a massive improvement. His martial arts skills might not make him a powerhouse, but they're a solid foundation. He decides to finish checking the first floor. That's when he stumbles upon another ring, this one a subspace ring. It allows the wearer to store items in a subspace. He wonders if this is like an inventory system and how convenient it could be to not need a bag. Curious, he gives it a try. He mutters subspace, and to his surprise, a strange blob of space materializes. It feels strange, but is incredibly useful. No more hauling bags of loot around. He thinks to himself how amazing it would be if he could bring this kind of tech back to Earth. Imagine how wild that would be. Checking the system again, he notices something. The kill log shows that one player has been eliminated. But with all the looting done, he starts to think it's time to move on. But then again, it's safer to stay put until sunrise. The strong players he saw in the waiting room are bound to be roaming the darkness. With his current level, he wouldn't stand a chance against them, but if he can make it into the top 10, he could invest his points wisely. A sudden thought hits him. The night is quieter, and fewer people are out. Now might be the perfect time to move. Our boy sets off, walking through the dark. Strangely, he doesn't feel tired at all. That ring of strength is making a huge difference. But hunger is starting to kick in, and he begins to wonder if this game really is as realistic as it seems. His stomach growls, but there's no food in sight. According to the map, a city should be nearby, but the houses are nowhere to be found. Just as he's thinking about his next move, a low growl breaks the silence. There's a monster standing right behind him, saliva dripping from its fangs. Before he can react, the creature charges. Another one appears from the shadows, and Seowon realizes he's up against two werewolves. He hadn't expected monsters to be roaming around. He thought this was a pure PvP game. If he'd known about these monsters, he would have stayed put. Heart racing, he bolts, running as fast as he can. He can't afford to be taken out by a low-level mob. He spots a nearby house and makes a beeline for it, slamming the door shut behind him. He can still hear the werewolves growling and snuffling outside. They're definitely on his scent. He takes a deep breath, reloading his crossbow with one hand, thanks to the ring of strength. He peers through a crack in the door and locks eyes with one of the werewolves. It's now or never. The crossbow bolt flies, hitting the creature square in the head. It howls in pain and collapses. One down, one to go. But the second werewolf isn't giving up so easily. It charges through the door with terrifying force, sending splinters flying. Seowon's heart skips a beat as the beast closes in. He barely has time to aim and fire before it blocks the arrow with its arm, growling in fury. The beast charges again, this time with claws outstretched. At that moment, our boy wonders if this is how it ends. But he's not about to give up. With a fierce resolve, he mutters subspace again, pulling out an item to channel his black star chi palms. In a single, devastating strike, the werewolf's body is blasted apart, splintering under the force. He stands over the remains, panting. He can't afford to lose to a mere underling like this. Seowon is breathing heavily, thinking he was a goner. Fortunately, he had hidden his dagger in his subspace inventory earlier. Getting killed by random mobs this early in the game would be embarrassing. He notices a glowing pouch nearby and wonders if it's a drop from the werewolf. However, when he opens it, there's only water and jerky inside, items he could easily obtain by hunting. While eating the jerky, he decides to explore the surrounding area. He discovers a piece of armor lying on the ground. The armor appears too large for his frame, but when he puts it on, it magically adjusts to fit his body perfectly. A system notification appears, informing him that his resistance to fire and wind magic has increased significantly. Seowon is thrilled because the single piece of equipment boosted 2 different stats. He starts wondering if there are more valuable items scattered around the area. While searching through a cabinet, he stumbles over something invisible on the floor. He can't see what it is, but assumes it might be a hidden item. When he picks it up, it feels like cloth. The item reveals itself to be a night cloak that provides camouflage abilities to the wearer. He's extremely pleased with this find, realizing he can now avoid other players during nighttime and significantly increase his chances of survival. As our boy continues exploring, he hasn't encountered any other players yet. He assumes this is because he spawned in a remote location away from other participants. Suddenly, he hears commotion nearby and sees a man running desperately from something. Seowon immediately activates his cloak to hide and observes the situation. The fleeing man doesn't appear particularly strong, so Seowon readies his crossbow and takes aim. However, He hesitates, conflicted about whether he should actually kill another person, even though this is technically just a game. Before Seo-won can make his decision, another player appears and unleashes fire magic, completely roasting him. Seo-won watches in shock as the man burns alive, wondering if he's actually dead. When no corpse remains and only a loot chest appears, Seo-won confirms that this is indeed just a game mechanic. The fire mage comments that someone who couldn't even use magic had the audacity to steal his items as he walks toward the treasure chest. As he passes right by Seo-won's without detecting him, Seo-won is amazed by how effective his cloak is. While the mage opens the chest, Seo-won realizes that the dead player was in the same situation as himself, a weak participant trying to survive. He understands that this fire mage could easily hunt him down next. He concludes that if he continues hesitating, someone will eventually kill him and claim a higher ranking. The mage is caught completely off guard when an arrow suddenly flies toward him. His magical barrier activates automatically, blocking the projectile. Realizing he's under attack by another player, the mage immediately prepares his fire magic for combat. Seo-won loads another arrow and fires again, but it still only hits the barrier without penetrating. However, the mage notices that his defensive barrier is weakening and will break if the attacks continue. Frustrated, he shouts into the darkness, demanding that his hidden attacker reveal themselves, then launches a fireball at a nearby tree. The attack misses Seo-won completely, and the mage continues yelling for his cowardly opponent to show themselves. Just as the mage finishes his taunt, Seo-won's dagger comes flying through the air and shatters the magical barrier. As the mage attempts to cast another fireball, an arrow pierces straight through his skull, killing him instantly. A loot chest spawns where his body disappears. Seo-won knows he needs to collect the items quickly to avoid drawing attention from other players. Among the dropped items, he finds a circle stone and wonders if using it will allow him to become a mage as well. This excites him, and he stores all the loot in his subspace inventory. He needs to find a safe location to use the circle stone. He spots an abandoned house and decides to enter it. Inside, the system asks if he wants to use the circle stone. When he confirms, the system warns him that he will be immobilized for 3 hours during the process. As the transformation begins, Seo-won experiences intense pain but forces himself to suppress any screams that might attract other players to his location. After 3 agonizing hours, the process finally ends, and he collapses to the floor, cursing about the so-called slight pain by the system. Since 2 players died during his earlier encounter, Seo-won checks the system interface, expecting the survivor count to have decreased accordingly. To his surprise, the number has already dropped to only 45 players remaining. Earlier that day, in a different part of the game area, another player is being chased through the trees by a pursuer. The fleeing man desperately begs for his life as he runs. He trips and hits his head on the ground, pleading to be allowed to survive until at least the top 90 rankings. The pursuer smiles coldly and shows no mercy, brutally killing the helpless player without hesitation. His name, Nam Sagwon. Seo-won is thinking about Nam Sagwon, hoping he doesn't encounter this dangerous player. With half the participants already eliminated, Seo-won realizes that if Nam Sagwon continues his killing spree, he might actually crack the top 10 rankings. The thought of those exclusive item rewards and whether they might carry over to the real world crosses his mind, but he knows there's still a killer on the loose, so he needs to keep moving. Instead, he decides to test out his newly acquired magic abilities. He pulls out a magic tome from his subspace inventory that he looted earlier. The moment he chooses to learn it, the system makes him learn the spell directly in his head. He activates his first spell, Escrow Magic Wind Ball, and 4 small wind spheres materialize on his fingers. Initially disappointed by their size, his opinion quickly changes when he launches them at a target. The destructive power far exceeds their appearance, and he knows this skill will be incredibly useful in combat. However, using magic completely drained his mana pool, leaving him exhausted and vulnerable. As time passed, the deadly restricted zone begins expanding across the map, gradually shrinking the safe area. Seo-won calculates that with only half the players remaining, his chances of running into someone should be relatively low. He decides to prioritize farming items and resources before the zone forces everyone into closer proximity. Unknown to Seo-won, someone has been observing him high up in a tree, silently tracking his every movement. Half a day passes, and Seo-won discovers open chests near an abandoned house. But his instincts suddenly kick in as he senses something behind him. Without hesitation, he spins around and fires a wind ball at the suspected location. The spell smashes through a door, but reveals nothing except empty space. Questioning whether it was just the wind, he still can't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. That's when he notices blood is splattered across the floor inside the house, suggesting an injured person might be hiding inside. Seo-won weighs his options, knowing that anyone who has survived this long in the game must be pretty strong. The thought runs through his mind whether he should eliminate this wounded player while they're vulnerable. Instead, he chooses self-preservation over aggression and walks away. Inside the house, the injured player cautiously peers out, sighing in relief after confirming Seo-won has left. The wounded man thinks to himself that he could have easily taken care of Seo-won if he wasn't in such a weakened state. But as the injured player emerges to loot the area, an arrow suddenly pierces through his skull, killing him instantly. The attack reveals Seo-won's true strategy. He had been using his invisibility cloak the entire time, baiting the player into revealing himself. Satisfied with his successful ambush, Seo-won quickly moves to collect the deceased player's items before heading toward the edge of the map. However, his moment of triumph is short-lived as the mysterious old man appears directly behind him without warning. Startled, Seo-won immediately spins around. The old man calmly tells him there's no need to be afraid, explaining that he simply wants to ask a few questions. Seo-won demands to know the man's identity, but the old man dismisses the question, stating that everyone here comes from different lives and backgrounds. Something about this old man made Seo-won think he's different from every other player he's encountered so far. The old man reveals that he's been observing Seo-won and is impressed by how quickly he's adapted to the survival game. He asks if Seo-won has participated in similar games before. Seo-won wonders exactly how long he's been under surveillance. He admits this is his first time being transported to such a place, but explains that he's played similar games in his original world. The old man studies Seo-won's appearance and confirms they're definitely not from the same world. As darkness falls, the old man points out how large the moon appears in this world's sky. Both agree it's significantly bigger than the moons from their respective home worlds. When the old man inquires about the game Seo-won mentioned, Seo-won suggests they shouldn't remain in such an exposed location where they could easily be ambushed. The old man agrees they should relocate, but Seo-won questions how he can trust that the stranger won't kill him once they're alone. Without warning, the old man demonstrates his incredible abilities by appearing behind Seo-won in an instant, grabbing him by the neck and launching into the treetops. He carries Seo-won effortlessly from branch to branch like a master ninja, leaving Seo-won completely bewildered by this display of superhuman agility. In the distance, a mysterious silhouette can be seen against the backdrop of the full moon, suggesting their encounter may have unforeseen consequences. The two eventually settle on a high tree branch to continue their conversation. Seo-won clings awkwardly to the trunk while describing his world as a place of highly advanced civilization and technology. This explanation helps the old man understand why Seo-won adapted so quickly to the game. The old man reveals he's been watching Seo-won since the very moment all participants were dropped into this world. His curiosity about why they were all brought here finally motivated him to make contact, and he assures Seo-won that he means no harm. Seo-won admits he has no idea why they've been transported to this death game either. When the old man mentions the similarity to games from Seo-won's world, Seo-won clarifies that those games were purely for entertainment where people don't actually die. Since the motives behind this game remain completely unknown to him, he can't provide any insight. However, Seo-won does share his theory that this experience represents a massive opportunity for someone. He explains that death in this world doesn't result in true death, but rather assigns participants a ranking with corresponding rewards. When the old man asks if he's referring to the equipment he currently has, Seo-won suggests the rewards might extend beyond just items to include the actual skills and abilities they've acquired. Though he admits he lacks concrete evidence for this theory, Seo-won speculates that while the old man might not need such powers, for people struggling in their normal lives, these supernatural abilities could be completely life-changing. The old man questions why Seo-won assumes his life is free from struggles. Seo-won responds that the old man appears to be a martial arts master who likely has many followers back in his world, unlike himself who feels useless in his society. This observation amuses the old man, who finds Seo-won increasingly interesting, though Seo-won quickly shushes him to avoid attracting attention from other players. Throughout the night, Seo-won shares valuable tips and strategies for surviving in this world while listening to fascinating stories about the old man's world. Morning arrives surprisingly quickly during their exchange. Feeling guilty for taking up so much of Seo-won's time, the old man prepares to part ways by lowering him back to the ground. Seo-won insists it wasn't a problem at all, thinking to himself that staying close to this powerful old man is probably his best chance of survival. The old man asks if there's anything he can do to repay Seo-won for all his helpful advice. Seo-won sees his opportunity and requests to learn the old man's martial arts techniques, explaining that he plans to survive until the very end and needs all the help he can get. After studying Seo-won carefully, the old man responds that teaching him isn't impossible. Seo-won's excitement is immediately tempered when the old man adds a serious warning that he must be prepared for the worst possible outcome. When Seo-won asks what he means, the old man states that he's talking about death itself, increasing the tension. But Seo-won responds that you can't die for real in this game. Remembering this, the old man realizes that his technique might actually work. Seo-won's eyes light up with excitement as he eagerly asks if he can really become stronger. The old man places his hand on Seo-won's head, checking his internal energy levels. What he discovers shocks him completely. Seo-won's chi is practically non-existent, weaker than even his pet dog. But Seo-won reiterated again that these concepts do not exist in his world. For now, Seo-won assumes the lotus meditation position as the old man hovers his palm above his head. He gives him a warning. The process will bring unimaginable pain that feels like dying itself, and Seo-won won't be able to move during the entire process. When Seo-won asks what he should do, the answer is simple: endure it or die. The moment the technique begins, Seo-won's entire body explodes with agony. Every gentle breeze against his skin feels like razor-sharp blades slicing through flesh. The air entering his lungs burns like molten lava flowing down his throat. Suddenly, brilliant rays of light burst from his eyes and mouth as he lets out a blood-curdling scream. As consciousness fades, Seo-won genuinely believes he's about to die in this world. Then, just as abruptly as it began, the torment ends. His body immediately rejects the trauma, forcing him to vomit violently. The old man observes this reaction with approval, noting that Seo-won possesses a rare, innate disposition that allowed him to survive the process. The transformation is complete. Seo-won's chi flow and physical body have been fundamentally altered. When he asks what comes next, the old man explains that normal humans absorb the world's chi solely through breathing. However, Seo-won now possesses an additional pathway to channel special energy beyond conventional methods. He begins teaching him about the fundamental nature of existence. Every person consists of three core components: body, mind, and soul, all bound together by life chi. When someone dies, most people assume this life chi simply vanishes, but this is completely wrong. Instead, it disperses back into nature, continuing the eternal cycle of life and death. However, some people consider this natural process wasteful. They resort to murder, stealing, and absorbing the life chi of their victims. But this stolen energy creates an unstable internal state, ultimately destroying the delicate balance between yin and yang within their bodies, leading to their own destruction. Hearing this explanation, Seo-won begins to panic, fearing he might die from this unstable technique. But the old man reassures him that his situation is completely different. Unlike others, he used his soul as the foundation, and since he had zero internal energy to begin with, he's essentially a blank slate ready to be written upon. The old man reveals the technique's greatest limitation. It can only reach its full potential through taking lives. However, in this game, that restriction becomes meaningless. By eliminating other players until he's the last one standing, Seo-won will achieve incredible power levels. As their training session comes to an end, the old man announces it's time for them to part ways. But Seo-won asks for his name before he leaves. The old man introduces himself as Jang Dokian, though most people know him by his title, Deep Valley Standing Kindly. After expressing his gratitude, Seo-won watches as the old man vanishes like a true martial arts expert, disappearing so quickly it seems like magic. Though tempted to learn that technique for easier travel, Seo-won stays focused on his original plan and heads toward the outskirts of the map. While being transported by the old man felt instantaneous, walking to his destination takes an exhausting half-day of travel. As night falls, he spots a house with a lantern still lit. This could mean the building is empty, or there's a complete newbie inside making rookie mistakes. Either way, it's the perfect opportunity. Wearing his invisibility cloak, he approaches with his crossbow ready. After carefully searching the entire house, he finds no player and begins looting for valuable items. Unfortunately, the search yields only worthless junk, leaving him disappointed. Realizing he hasn't slept since yesterday after spending all night with the old man, exhaustion finally catches up with him. He decides to rest while remaining invisible for safety. On the fifth day, Seo-won's peaceful sleep gets interrupted by a voice outside the house. He immediately grabs his crossbow and prepares for combat. An unknown player enters the house, clearly expecting to find a safe place to rest. Instead, he walks directly into Seo-won's crossbow sight. Without hesitation, Seo-won pulls the trigger, but the man deflects the arrow with lightning-fast reflexes. Recognizing his opponent as a skilled martial artist, Seo-won unleashes his newly acquired Black Star Chi Palm technique while simultaneously throwing multiple daggers. One blade hit its mark, causing the man to curse him for using hidden weapons and underhanded tactics. But Seo-won isn't finished. He charges forward, grabs his opponent's face with brutal force, and slams him into the ground with devastating impact. A swift kick sends the man's sword flying across the room, leaving him completely defenseless. As his defeated opponent begins pleading for mercy, Seo-won shows no compassion whatsoever. He drives an arrow directly through the man's skull, ending his life instantly. In this game, everyone struggles to survive, and Seo-won refuses to show weakness to anyone standing in his path to victory. After taking down his opponent, he notices a chest materializing with green energy swirling around it. This reminds him of the life chi technique the old man taught him earlier. As the energy flows through his body, he feels an incredible surge of power coursing through his veins. He wonders if this overwhelming strength is what they call inner energy. Even though he only absorbed the life chi from one person, the power boost is insane. When he checks his status window, a brand new inner energy stat has appeared. While he's grateful to the old man for this amazing ability, Seo-won realizes he needs to find other ways to gather life chi instead of just killing people. Curious about the remaining players, he's absolutely shocked to see only 24 people are left, and it's only day 5 of the game. Suddenly, the count drops by one more. Someone just got eliminated, and Seo-won knows exactly who's behind it. Nam Sagwang is on another killing spree. The scene shifts to a fresh corpse that transforms into a chest after death. We finally meet the infamous Nam Sagwang himself, who's getting tired of this endless slaughter. He checks the player count and sees 22 survivors remaining. His eyes catch Jin Seo-won's name on the list, and he wonders if he's seen it before. Back with Seo-won, he's thinking about how he absolutely needs to avoid that man at all costs. He could barely handle a small fry, so there's no way he can face someone at Nam Sagwang's level right now. After collecting his loot, he decides his best strategy is to hide and survive until more players get eliminated. Fast forward 1 week, and Seo-won encounters another werewolf. He reflects on how lucky he was during the early stages of the game. His hiding strategy meant he couldn't loot much, but survival was more important. He takes down the werewolf with a single arrow shot, securing his meal for the day. Unfortunately, he's getting sick of eating nothing but jerky. It's now day 12 with only 20 players remaining. Seo-won tests the barrier by putting his hand near it, but the pain is unbearable. Moving into that zone is definitely not an option. Then he spots a massive smoke in the distance, indicating a major battle is taking place. The scene cuts to Nam Sagwang, but this time he's actually bruised and battered. He's facing 4 players who have formed an alliance specifically to take him down. Instead of being worried, Nam Sagwang just smiles and thanks them for saving him the trouble of hunting them individually. He warns them that since they're prepared to kill him, they better be ready for the consequences. In an instant, Nam Sagwang vanishes and reappears in midair with that same terrifying smile. The Alliance members look up desperately, shouting not to let him escape. What follows is an absolutely brutal one-sided massacre. Nam Sagwang effortlessly destroys one guy, while the others stand there confused about how he pulled it off. This guy is just built differently and seems destined to win unless something completely unexpected happens. Seo-won watches the kill feed as Nam Sagwang's name appears repeatedly. The player count plummets rapidly as he racks up 9 kills in a single encounter. Standing among the carnage, Nam Sagwang thinks about how pathetic those opponents were. He's covered in blood and disgusted by the stench. Behind him lies a staff that seems pretty important, but he completely misses it and decides to find somewhere to wash up instead. Later that night, a mysterious figure picks up the abandoned staff. He recognizes it as Elizabeth's staff and swears by Escrow's name that he will get his revenge. This is the same guy we saw earlier in the game. Back with Seo-won, only 11 players remain. He's so close to breaking into the top 10, but with Nam Sagwang going completely insane, he desperately needs some serious gear upgrades to even think about competing. He spots a luxurious mansion and realizes it'll probably be outside the safe zone by morning. This could be his last chance for a proper farming run before the area becomes inaccessible. Thus, he decides to investigate. Inside the mansion, he is blown away by how extravagant everything looks. He tries to pick up some armor, but the system tells him he lacks the required strength. The gear needs 110 strength, but he only has 30. While exploring further, he discovers something incredible, an elixir that boosts internal energy. This gets him super excited about what other treasures this place might hold. He even finds a martial arts manual lying around. Just like with the circle stone from before, absorbing the elixir requires him to sit still for several hours. As he's preparing, he notices what looks like a cellar entrance below and wonders what might be hidden down there. Suddenly, a massive fire explosion rocks the mansion. Seo-won immediately spins around wondering what the hell is happening and starts running for his life. He hides behind some bushes, completely confused because he was sure nobody followed him to this location. But when he gets a good look at the intruder, he recognizes the magician from the waiting area. It's Escrow. Escrow appears to be talking to someone, commenting that it wasn't pure luck for that person to eliminate so many players. The camera reveals he's actually confronting Nam Sagwang, who seems annoyed by all the talking. Nam Sagwang tells Escrow to stop his yapping and just attack already, but Escrow responds by saying they'll see how long he can keep running his mouth. Nam Sagwang remains completely unfazed by the threat. From his hiding spot, Seo-won watches this confrontation unfold and is surprised to realize that the terrifying Nam Sagwang is actually just a kid. Escrow starts channeling a lightning spell into his staff and unleashes strike. The lightning bolt shoots directly toward Nam Sagwang, who barely manages to dodge the attack at the last second. Escrow demands that Nam Sagwang stop running and face him head-on, just like he did when fighting Elizabeth. Nam Sagwang realizes this opponent isn't just making empty threats. He's never encountered anyone with abilities like this before. Growing frustrated with the constant dodging, Escrow begins channeling an even more powerful lightning spell. He declares he'll finish this battle right now and launches Lightning Storm. Nam Sagwang's eyes widen as multiple lightning bolts rain down on him. He barely escapes the attack and immediately leaps toward Escrow while charging up his chi for a counterattack. However, Escrow remains confident that Nam Sagwang's attack won't be strong enough to break through his magical barrier. Escrow waves his staff at him, and the attack appears to slice him completely in half. But Escrow quickly realizes that Nam Sagwang can cast illusion magic. Meanwhile, Seo-won watches the entire battle. He's completely amazed by Escrow's insane magical abilities. The guy can literally summon rain. Escrow searches around frantically, but cannot detect Nam Sagwang's presence anywhere. Assuming his opponent has fled far away, Escrow shouts threats about catching and killing him when they meet again. The scene shifts to Nam Sagwang running through the forest, looking completely beaten up and breathing heavily. He admits to himself that Escrow might have won this round, but things will be different next time they fight. For now, he decides the smart move is to retreat and recover his strength. Back at the battlefield, Seo-won notices that Escrow spent quite a while looking for Nam Sagwang before eventually giving up and leaving the area. Thanks to his invisibility cloak, Escrow couldn't detect his presence, allowing him to survive another dangerous encounter. Seo-won figures those two powerhouses probably won't return to this area anytime soon. After the coast clears, Seo-won discovers the cellar he had planned to search earlier, now visible behind some rubble. Curious about what might be hidden inside, he opens the entrance and peers down into the darkness. The cellar appears quite deep, but since no one seems to be down there, he decides to investigate. He feels grateful that he had the foresight to grab a lantern the previous day. As he explores the underground space, he wonders if this is just an ordinary food storage cellar. Initially disappointed by the possibility of finding only food supplies, he then remembers that he's been surviving on nothing but tasteless jerky since the game began. 1 hour later, he lies on the cellar floor completely satisfied after enjoying his first real meal in days. He thinks the feast would have been perfect if there had been rice to go with everything. Opening his subspace inventory, he considers whether he should study the manual he picked up earlier. The system had explained what abilities the manual could teach him, but the skills seemed pretty useless, but they're better than nothing. Instead, he chooses to drink the elixir first. He hesitates briefly, remembering his bad experience with the circle stone, but his desire to become stronger wins out. After consuming the elixir, he feels a powerful surge of inner energy flowing through his entire body. The system warns him that he won't be able to move for the next 3 hours while the elixir takes effect. After the 3-hour period passes, he reflects on how long he's been hiding and feels proud that he managed to survive the clash between two incredibly powerful players like Escrow and Nam Sagwon. Exhausted from the day's events, he decides to get some sleep. Day 13 arrives, and Seo-won emerges from the cellar to find that the mansion is located dangerously close to the restricted zone. He quickly checks the player count and discovers that only 10 people remain in the game. Someone must have died during the night. Looking at the death notification, Seo-won sees that the eliminated player was Jang Dokyeon, the old man, who apparently committed self-murder. Seo-won can't understand why he would choose to end his time on the game. While he's happy about making it into the top 10, reaching this milestone through these means leaves a bad taste in his mouth. With the map already beginning to shrink toward the next safe zone, Seo-won knows he needs to start moving immediately. But just as he begins running, a massive fireball comes flying directly at him. He manages to dodge the attack at the last possible moment. He looks around in confusion, wondering who could possibly summon such a large and powerful fireball. Then the realization hits him. It's Escrow. Escrow had been using his detection spell to track what he thought was Nam Sagwang's presence. But instead, he found a completely unfamiliar player. Seo-won feels his blood run cold as he comes face to face with this dangerous opponent. Escrow asks Seo-won if he knows Nam Sagwang's current location. He warns that if Seo-won can't provide useful information, he might have to kill him. Unknown to both players, Nam Sagwang is actually hiding behind a nearby tree, listening to their entire conversation. Seo-won tells him that they literally just met, so how would he possibly know where Nam Sagwang is? But right as he says this, Nam Sagwang suddenly leaps toward Escrow out of nowhere. He strikes with incredible force, but his attack is completely blocked by Escrow's protective barrier. Escrow turns around and sees Nam Sagwang standing there, commenting that he's fully recovered from their previous encounter. Seo-won is shocked, wondering where the hell this guy just came from. Nam Sagwang charges up his fist with overwhelming power, declaring that he'll finish Escrow in one clean hit. Escrow blocks the attack with his staff, arrogantly stating that such a simple attack could never hurt someone like him. But then something completely unexpected happens. Nam Sagwang smirks with confidence and asks Escrow if he's ever heard of enhanced energy. He reveals that he never thought he'd have to use this technique in this world, but Escrow should consider himself honored. In an instant, Nam Sagwang's hand pierces straight through Escrow's throat. Escrow screams in agony as Nam Sagwang coldly tells him that he won't be chanting those annoying spells anymore. He is completely confident that he'll end Escrow right here and now. Seo-won watches this entire brutal scene unfold, thinking that he's incredibly lucky Nam Sagwang appeared when he did. He realizes this is the perfect opportunity to quickly escape from this dangerous situation. Nam Sagwang delivers another devastating blow to Escrow, causing him to cough up massive amounts of blood. Seo-won continues watching the one-sided massacre. As he sees escrow getting completely destroyed, fear isn't what comes to his mind at all. Instead, he starts wondering how incredibly strong he would become if he could absorb both of their life chi. The thought makes him gulp with anticipation. Nam Sagwang stands over the defeated escrow with complete confidence, asking him where all that cocky attitude from yesterday went as he lies there slumped in a pool of his own blood. He mockingly asks him if he has any last words before he finishes him off, but then laughs, saying that escrow can't even talk anymore. But then escrow actually responds. He tells Nam Sagwang that the person he killed, Elizabeth, was his most beloved apprentice. Nam Sagwang wonders if escrow is talking to his head right now and continues mocking the dying archmage. But suddenly, escrow begins to smile. He tells Nam Sagwang that now he can finally shut his filthy mouth forever. Nam Sagwang immediately becomes alert, sensing that something is wrong. Seowon looks up at the sky and sees a massive meteor forming above them. Nam Sagwang is confused because he thought escrow couldn't cast spells anymore since he destroyed his throat. Escrow reveals that this is the ultimate spell that only archmages can use, requiring both mana and life chi as the price. He calls it Armageddon. Nam Sagwang immediately tries to run away as fast as possible. Seowon realizes that he definitely should have escaped much earlier when he had the chance. As escrow begins to disappear from existence, he reminisces about all the precious time he spent with Elizabeth and wishes he could see her again one more time. The meteor crashes into the ground, creating an absolutely massive explosion that destroys everything in the area. An unknown person watches this devastating scene from a distance. This mysterious observer thinks that it must be him if someone can use a spell of that incredible magnitude. After the explosion settles, we see Seowon completely torn up and in tatters, thinking that he definitely should have just run away instead of waiting around like an idiot. He opens his subspace inventory and consumes multiple healing scrolls that he had farmed extensively. Even after healing himself, everything still hurts incredibly badly, but at least he can finally breathe a little better now. However, he's burned through absolutely all of his healing scrolls and realizes he's going to need to farm a lot more of them. He pulls up the system player count and confirms that Nam Sagwang really did manage to kill escrow. Seowon thinks it's such a shame that he couldn't absorb escrow's life chi for himself. But then he notices something strange. Nam Sagwang's death isn't being displayed on the system. He wonders if he is somehow still alive. Suddenly, someone weakly calls out to him. He looks around, thinking he heard a sound coming from somewhere nearby. It turns out to be Nam Sagwang, but he's completely missing all his limbs and is clearly on the verge of death. He desperately mutters that he can't die like this. Seowon observes that of course it would have been nearly impossible to dodge a meteor that was aimed directly at him. Nam Sagwang desperately begs Seowon to use the healing scroll on him to save his life. Seowon starts wondering what kind of incredible gear Nam Sagwang must have been using, considering he had already killed so many powerful players. But seeing him in this pathetic state is shocking. Nam Sagwang promises that if Seowon just helps him recover, he can make him the ultimate winner of this entire game. But instead of helping, Seowon pulls out a sword from his subspace inventory. He realizes that if he can get Nam Sagwang's items and absorb his life chi, he can become the Lu Bu of this game, an absolutely unstoppable force. With a sinister smile, Seowon prepares to end Nam Sagwang's life. He desperately warns Seowon that even if he kills him, there are many other incredibly strong players out there, and his martial arts techniques weren't even learned in this game world. Seowon confidently responds that Nam Sagwang should at least know the name of the person who's about to kill him, and he reveals his identity. Nam Sagwang tries one last desperate plea for mercy, but Seowon drives his sword straight into his head, killing him instantly. Seowon comments that Nam Sagwang being just a kid makes people feel guilty about killing him. Immediately, an enormous swirl of life chi emerges from Nam Sagwang's corpse. The amount is absolutely incredible. Seowon thinks that Nam Sagwang was practically a human elixir. The inner energy completely fills Seowon's body with overwhelming power. Other players across the game world see Nam Sagwang's death notification appear on their system screens. Now that the tiger has finally been slain, all the foxes will run rampant throughout the game. Seowon opens Nam Sagwang's loot chest and discovers 4 legendary rings: Kaiser's Ring, Dreiminger's Ring, Galen's Ring, and Tokar's ring. He realizes that Nam Sagwang was a hardcore item farmer who only collected rare equipment. After equipping all the rings, Seowon checks his stats and is shocked to see they're all cracked items with insane power levels. With this new gear, he's confident he can dominate the remaining players. The chest also contains martial arts manuals, but Seowon can't learn them immediately due to skill restrictions. As he's examining his loot, he senses someone watching him. Suddenly, a massive fireball comes flying straight at him from another player who was lying in ambush. The attacker assumes Seowon only got lucky against Nam Sagwang since he fell for such a basic sneak attack. However, the fireball does absolutely nothing to Seowon thanks to his ridiculous 90% magic resistance. The mage player can't believe his spell was completely ineffective. Seowon casually walks toward the mage, who panics and warns him to stay back. In desperation, the man launches another fire spell at point-blank range, but once again it has zero effect on Seowon. Seowon charges up his piercing fist technique and delivers a devastating blow directly to his opponent's stomach. The impact sends the man crashing into a tree, blood spurting from his mouth. Seowon is genuinely surprised by the martial art's incredible power, considering he thought it was pathetic earlier. The player, revealed to be Zyhark, dies instantly from the single attack. With his death, only 7 players remain in the game. Seowon realizes that average magic spells won't even scratch him anymore as he loots Zyhark's items. With Nam Sagwang eliminated, all the players who were hiding and playing it safe are now making their moves. He knows it's going to be a long and brutal night. He feels confident that with his current power level, he can finally match the old man's lightning-fast movement techniques. An hour passes, and Seowon is now perched on a tree branch wearing his invisibility cloak. Below him, a loud player is shouting challenges, demanding that Seowon stop hiding and face him like a man. Seowon thinks this guy is way too noisy for a stealth mission in the middle of the night. The challenger introduces himself as Stanko, a cocky swordsman who claims that all the remaining players are too scared to face him. Suddenly, a powerful energy blast shoots toward him, but he deflects it with his sword. Stanko mocks the attack as cowardly and demands his opponent come out for an honorable duel. However, the attack didn't come from Seowon. Another player emerges from the shadows, standing confidently on a tree branch and looking down at Stanko. This new opponent is Zurikana, a notorious figure among mercenaries. Zurikana questions how Stanko knows his identity, and Stanko replies that his reputation is well known in mercenary circles. Stanko then proposes they team up to eliminate Seowon first, seeing him as the biggest threat. Zurikana appears intrigued by the offer and jumps down to meet Stanko face to face. As Stanko introduces himself as a fellow mercenary, Zurikana silently evaluates him. Stanko internally notes that despite Zurikana's fearsome reputation, the man seems to be lacking in intelligence. What Stanko doesn't realize is that Zurikana is actually calculating something entirely different. Without warning, Stanko betrays his proposed alliance and charges forward with his sword, planning to eliminate Zurikana while his guard is down. Just as the blade is about to connect, an arrow pierces straight through Stanko's skull, killing him instantly. Zurikana coldly states that he would never cooperate with worthless trash, comparing Stanko to something even dogs would urinate on. He realizes he's wasted precious time and needs to locate Seowon's position. Unknown to Zurikana, Seowon has been watching the entire confrontation from his hiding spot, still cloaked in invisibility. Seowon considers this the perfect opportunity to drain Zurikana's inner energy, especially this late in the competition when every advantage counts. Zurikana suddenly senses something behind him and turns around. Seowon tenses up, confused about how he was detected since his cloak should protect him from all detection magic. He desperately hopes his cover isn't blown. Fortunately, Zurikana was just dismissing Stanko's corpse as worthless trash, with equally worthless loot not worth collecting. After a moment, Zurikana leaves the area to continue his hunt. Seowon finally allows himself to relax, impressed by Zurikana's incredible sensory abilities. He realizes that he will likely be his next major opponent in this deadly game. The restricted zone continues to shrink at an alarming speed. Only 6 survivors remain, and with 87 days still left on the clock, The system will likely adjust the danger based on how many players are left alive. Our boy scans his surroundings and notices a clear, open space. He immediately realizes that if he ends up fighting here, every nearby survivor will notice right away. But before he can think further, energy bolts suddenly come flying straight toward him. He reacts instantly, dodging the projectiles, but something feels off. Those attacks were aimed precisely at his location. They shouldn't even be able to see him. Looking up, he spots strange magical symbols forming above. This time there are more of them, and he knows he can't dodge them all. He steadies himself, focusing his inner energy, and unleashes his first martial art. Unstoppable Fist, Chapter 1. To his own surprise, his punch smashes through the incoming magic and disperses it completely. Even he realizes his strength is far greater than he thought. But he doesn't linger. He leaps into the air, determined to locate the attacker. From above, he finally spots a man hiding in the distance. That man, who used up all of his mana in the earlier assault, is in complete disbelief that our boy blocked everything. Just as he tries to process what happened, he is suddenly stabbed from behind. The man never sensed a thing before being cut down instantly. Another survivor reveals himself, an assassin. He mocks Bro for not saving any mana for detection or barrier magic. For an assassin, erasing traces is second nature. The mage is gone, leaving 5 survivors in total. CO1 lands back on the ground, but the assassin immediately addresses him by name. Shocked, our boy demands to know how he recognizes him, and he simply says it's obvious. After all, he is infamous for killing Nam Sagwang, and with so few left, everyone will be desperate to hunt him down. Bro really warns our boy not to resist. He boasts that once he sets his eyes on a target, he never fails. Without hesitation, he rushes to CO1. The clash is brutal. Blood sprays as our boy's left arm is almost sliced open. He manages to endure only because he reinforced it with internal energy. Without it, it would have been severed. Assassin Dude smirks, certain that CO1's death is inevitable, declaring that he has never once failed in the darkness. That word, darkness, makes our boy realize Bro's whole gimmick. As he fades into the shadows, he reappears behind our boy, blade ready to finish the job. But before the strike lands, CO1 vanishes as well. Bro is startled, unable to find him. For the first time, he realizes his own stealth is being countered. CO1 has activated his cloak, and compared to that, this guy's concealment is nothing. CO1 seizes the assassin's arms from behind. He explains coldly that at his level, he can trace movements simply through energy flow. Bro really calls him a coward for attacking from the shadows, but our boy doesn't flinch. He tightens his grip, and in desperation, the assassin yells that our boy can't possibly hope to beat everyone left on his own. He even proposes they form an alliance. But before he can say more, it's too late. His life ends here. 4 survivors remain. Absorbing the life force of both fallen players, CO1 quickly secures healing scrolls. He intends to recover and move on as fast as possible. Among the loot, he finds a book the assassin carried, the Shadow Clone Manual, an advanced technique allowing the user to create clones for battle depending on internal energy reserves. The system asks if he wants to learn it, and our boy scoffs, thinking that the assassin never even understood the power of internal energy. From the mage's corpse, he discovers another grimoire, Carmen's Eyes, the highest tier of detection spells, though he can't learn it yet. But as he examines his loot, an arrow suddenly whizzes past, grazing his side. Shocked, he quickly turns around. The only archer he knows of is the one who killed Stanko. But before he can react further, a wave of unfamiliar magic rushes toward him. He has never seen anything like it before. He braces himself, unleashing Unstoppable Fist once again to shatter the attack. 2 strikes came at the same time. Could it be a coordinated assault? Before he can catch his breath, another presence emerges from behind. A sword slashes toward him, and Bro narrowly dodges. Our boy retreats, realizing he's now facing not 1, but 3 enemies. The swordsman steps forward, introducing himself as Sunturk. Beside him is Chiron, the guy from the beginning, and of course, Zurikana. Seeing this, our boy wonders if this is the moment he finally gets cooked. But our boy has a plan to break them apart by making them betray each other. Chiron descends from above and casually greets Cruzan like they're old buddies. Cruzan immediately gets offended, basically telling Bro that he has no right to speak to royalty. But Chiron brushes him off, saying there are more important things at stake than social status right now. Our boy watches this exchange and starts wondering if maybe they aren't actually working together after all. But his hopes get crushed real quick when Cruzan suggests they should deal with our boy's stealth abilities first, and Chiron responds that it'll be dead easy for him to handle. He starts conjuring some intense light magic that catches our boy completely off guard with its blinding brightness. Bro smugly declares that there's no darkness left for our boy to hide in, which is a massive problem since Seowon's cloak only works in dark environments. Chiron reveals he's actually grateful to Nam Sagwon for taking out Escrow earlier, because now it's Seowon's turn to die in the name of the Demon King. The guy starts channeling this devastating tornado-like spell called Chaos Blade, and things are looking pretty grim for our boy. But our boy isn't about to give up without a fight. He analyzes the situation and realizes that most mages are vulnerable at close range, so if he can get up close and personal, Chiron might get caught in his own magic and struggle to cast properly. It's a risky all-or-nothing strategy, but he decides to go for broke with close combat. As Bro unleashes his destructive magic, Seowon wraps his body in internal energy to minimize the damage and charges straight through the attack. He gets shredded by cuts all over his body, and the system even notifies him that his cloak has taken damage. Even worse, his internal energy barrier is cracking under the assault. Chiron watches, fully expecting our boy to get completely obliterated without leaving a trace. But suddenly, Seowon bursts through the attack using his unstoppable fist technique, completely catching Chiron off guard. Chiron mocks him for being arrogant and tells him to just give up before casting another spell called Chaos Dead Man's Hand. Grotesque, corpse-like hands suddenly erupt from the ground, and Seowon realizes this guy is on a completely different level compared to the other mages he's faced. But our boy responds by using his shadow clone technique, which completely blindsides Chiron. He thought Seowon was just some basic brawler who could only throw punches. Seowon closes in for what he thinks will be the finishing blow, but then Cruzan suddenly strikes from behind with his piercing aura, stabbing Chiron right through the back. The betrayed mage turns around in shock, asking how someone who calls himself a king could do something so cowardly. Bro coldly responds that victory is the greatest honor of all, and he never actually promised to work with him in the first place. He thanks him for eliminating what he considers trash, assuming our boy is dead. Then he turns to Zurikana and asks if they're the only two left standing. The king mentions how Zurikana was quite troublesome for his army, making it ironic that he ended up helping him eliminate the competition. Goat just smiles and tells him it's too early to be making such declarations. Just as Cruzan is about to respond, Seowon emerges from behind and delivers a devastating punch that sends dust flying everywhere. When the dust settles, our boy is exhausted and breathing heavily, but still standing. He looks at Zurikana and declares that they're the final two competitors. Zurikana admits he thought our boy had died to Cruzan's sword, but realizes it must have been a shadow clone that got hit instead. Seowon doesn't waste time with small talk and tells him to bring it on. But Zurikana just smiles and says everyone has such impatient personalities these days. He points out that Seowon has more pressing business to deal with first, referring to Cruzan, who's somehow still alive. The injured king is absolutely furious with our boy's antics. He thought his sword had connected with the real body, but he's impressed that our boy managed to destroy his armor. Even though Seowon looks completely beaten up, he tells Cruzan to stop talking so much and asks if both opponents are planning to jump him. But Bro just responds that he will regret making him fight seriously, then suddenly vanishes with incredible speed that leaves our boy completely shaken. The king reappears right in front of Seowon and stabs him in the left arm, boasting that no one can ever match his speed. Since he targeted the ligaments, Seowon won't be able to use his left arm anymore. But our boy refuses to lose after working so hard to reach this point. He decides it's too early to give up and puts his trust in the inner energy flowing within him. In a shocking display of strength, he grabs the rapier with his right hand and snaps it in half, leaving Cruzan stunned. He pulls out the broken blade stuck in his arm and retaliates with his Black Star Chi Palms technique, managing to graze Cruzan's face. The king is absolutely livid that someone dared to injure his face, while Seowon quickly uses a healing scroll to patch himself up. Cruzen prepares his ultimate technique called Aura Blade, acknowledging that our boy has actually forced him to use his most powerful attack. But he isn't backing down either. With his left arm partially healed by the scroll, he prepares his shadow clone technique with full internal energy release. As they both get ready, Cruzen declares that he's always the winner. But Seowon just tells Bro to brace himself because he's finally getting serious. Meanwhile, Zurikana is casually watching from above on a cliff, getting bored and asking if one of them can just hurry up and die already so they can wrap this whole thing up, and Bro is really yawning. Cruzen knows his aura blade can only last 2 minutes. He tells himself he must end this fight within that time. Our boy feels his own inner energy running dry and realizes he has to finish it now. Cruzen launches forward with a fierce assault, but Seowon slips past and strikes him from behind. Cruzen grows frustrated, wondering if he's only been hitting clones. He decides it doesn't matter. He'll cut them all down without hesitation. But before he can, our boy lands a clean hit to his face, leaving him shaken. Seowon's shadow clones surround him. Unlike illusions, these clones can land real strikes, each one just as dangerous as the original. The king refuses to be cornered and conjures his piercing aura, shredding through the shadows. Their durability proves weak, and within seconds only a handful remain. But with his skill time ticking, he knows he has about a minute left. Watching from the side, Zurikana observes how much Cruzen is struggling. The king demands him to step in, promising any reward if he helps secure victory. But Bro coldly dismisses him, telling him to focus on his opponent instead. Cruzen has no choice but to face our boy head-on once again. The two clash violently. Seowon drives forward with a devastating palm strike, but Cruzen manages to block. A grin spreads across his face as he counters, stabbing straight through our boy's chest. For a moment, it looks like victory, until the body fades away. Another clone. Fury consumes Bro. He shouts that it's no longer about winning. He'll rip Seowon apart no matter what. His aura erupts wildly, tearing through the battlefield as he blitzes past the clones. Soon only 2 figures remain, Seowon and a single clone. Cruzen focuses everything into a final charge. He dodges our boy's fist, but still takes a punishing strike to his ribs, blood spraying from his mouth. He remarks that even this was a clone and destroys it. Now, at last, only the real Seowon is left. The two prepare for their final clash. Cruzen powers up, his voice echoing as he pushes Aura Blade into its lightning form. Their bodies collide in a violent explosion of speed and power. Seowon is struck, electricity surging through his body as he collapses to the ground. Cruzen drives his blade through him, believing it's over at last. He declares that he finished just in time. Any slower and he would have lost. But something feels wrong. A chilling silence follows. Then, behind him, Seowon appears, seizing Cruzen's head and crushing it into nothing. The king falls, leaving only 2 survivors. Our boy admits that without wearing Cruzen down with his clones, he would have lost. Above, Zurikana smiles. He hadn't expected Seowon to defeat Cruzen, and he thanked him for doing the work. Cruzen may have been a king, but in the end, even he had to give everything to fight against Seowon. Now that our boy is exhausted, Zurikana raises his bow. With a calm smile, he declares that it's his turn, releasing an arrow aimed directly at our boy. As he narrowly dodges the arrow, he quickly summons shadow clones and charges forward. Zurikana grows irritated at the same trick but wastes no time, releasing another shot that pierces Seowon's leg. Descending from above, Zurikana ensures he cannot escape again. Arrows pin our boy's hands to the ground, and with his body restrained, he realizes that Zurikana saw through the trick instantly. With a smirk, Bro claims it was nothing more than a guess, yet still acknowledges Seowon's persistence in making it this far. And without hesitation, he releases another arrow straight to the head, eliminating our boy on the spot. Believing it to be over, Zurikana watches as a chest materializes. Meanwhile, Seowon watches all of this as Zurikana wins the game. Bro is pissed. Despite doing all that work, the prize goes to someone else. He remembers, however, that he once did the same to Nam Sagwon. The system then congratulates him for reaching second place, granting him the right to advance to the next game. Along with survival and kill bonuses, Seowon earns 140 reward coins, and the system begins summoning the items he acquired. Shadow Clone alone costs 130 coins, making him realize just how valuable it is. For now, he saves his coins as the system announces that the top 5 survivors have the chance at a gacha for rare rewards. Since he placed second, our boy earned 2 spins. As it rolls, Bro prays for the cloak or Shadow Clone, as they're the most expensive. But disappointingly, it lands on Escrow's necklace, the cheapest prize on the board. Frustrated, he curses his luck, but with 1 spin left, he focuses harder. It rolls again, and this time, granting him Shadow Clone, the single most expensive ability he could have purchased. At last, fortune is on his side. The system delivers his items and reminds him he can still purchase more with coins, but the sheer number of tempting options forces him to make compromises. With a final message of good luck, the system teleports him out. When our boy opens his eyes, the world looks familiar. He realizes he is back on Earth. Glancing at his hand, he sees the subspace ring. The game wasn't a dream. Gathering his things, he heads out, having a feel that a massive change is taking place. The last game ended with him just short of victory, but next time, he vows to claim first place. His parents had given him a small apartment near school, yet his mind is no longer focused on classes. What matters now is preparing for the battles to come. Sitting down, he begins cultivating as the old man taught him, feeling his empty core and knowing he must rebuild his strength before the next deadly game begins. For hours pass, yet our boy is still struggling. It feels like an eternity, but the amount of inner energy he gathered is barely anything. He opens his eyes in frustration and realizes that things in reality are completely different from the game. Instead of wasting more time, he decides to check and organize the items he managed to bring back. The first thing he looks at is the Shadow Clone manual. If it requires slow training like traditional martial arts, then getting stronger will take forever. But the system suddenly asks if he wants to learn it, and to his surprise, the same system from the game works in reality. Bro accepts, and instantly the knowledge is carved into his body. Swinging his arms around, he realizes he has learned it, but it feels much weaker compared to the game. He opens his subspace and inspects the treasures he brought. Escrow's necklace catches his attention first. It's pure gold, and with its weight, easily worth over 10 million won. If something this valuable costs just 1 coin, then farming items from the game could be life-changing. He also brought back refined troll's blood, a miraculous potion said to guarantee perfect health for an entire year. If sold to a wealthy patient, it could fetch any price he demanded. Cloyd Survival, the mysterious game he's been forced into, might actually be his greatest opportunity. But in reality, he hasn't eaten anything except jerky strips during the game. His stomach growls, and he decides to finally have a proper meal. At a small restaurant, our boy orders the food he missed the most, steaming white rice. The taste overwhelms him, and tears roll down his face as he eats. The old lady running the place notices and tells him not to cry, but Siowon insists it's simply too delicious. He thanks her sincerely before leaving, realizing that time in the game doesn't affect the real world. Back outside, he remembers another item, the Ring of Strength. The moment he slips it on, his entire body overflows with unbelievable power. He leaps around, amazed by his newfound strength, but quickly stops, worried someone might see and spread rumors online. Then, he pulls out the most expensive item in his possession, the Elixir of Insight. In the game, drinking it left him paralyzed for 3 hours while his insides burned as if they were on fire. Despite the risk, Bro drinks it. Immediately, his body heats up uncontrollably. Hours later, the building walls radiate so much heat that the neighbors call the police, thinking a fire has broken out. Officers arrive and knock, but Siowon barely manages to open the door. Drenched in sweat and looking half dead, our boy explains that it's just a fever and his boiler was turned up too high. The police leave, and Siowon collapses inside, admitting he almost died. Without the physique arts strengthening his body, he wouldn't have survived the elixir. Reality made it far more dangerous than he expected, yet the risk pays off. He tries using Unstoppable Fist, Undefeated Palm Strike, and the technique works, though it shatters his chair in the process. Excited but cautious, Bro decides that alongside meditation, he'll also need physical training to polish his martial arts. He decides to train in the park, but the area is too crowded during the day, so he chooses to train after sunset. Looking around, our boy notices a group of students loitering. With cigarettes in hand, they look like delinquents from the nearby high school. A girl among them asks if some guy named Minshik really wanted to meet, and one of the boys, Dongjun, just calls her a bitch. Then, an elderly man approaches, scolding them for smoking in a no-smoking zone. Bro laughs it off, bragging that even his parents don't care, but the old man retorts that his parents must have failed to raise him. Furious, Dongjun raises his hand, threatening to beat the old man. But before he can strike, a powerful kick smashes into his face, folding him instantly. It's Seowon. He warns that no matter how rude someone is, attacking an elderly person is unacceptable. But before things calm down, another figure steps forward, Minshik. He locks eyes with our boy, asking if they've met before. With a chilling presence, Bro really demands to know if Seowon is looking for death. The atmosphere shifts, and our boy senses it immediately. This just became far more complicated than he ever wanted. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.